你好，欢迎收听随行汉语 Welcome to Takeaway Chinese. I'm Niu Honglin, and I'm very happy to welcome a special guest onto today's show. She is not from China. She has stayed here for around 2 months, yet she has observed a lot of fun things happening in China, and she has a lot to share about this country that she's, growing to love. And she is Razia. Hello, Razia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Niu. How are you? I hope I've pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, Niu's perfect. You can call me Niu for sure. That is a good pronunciation. And I hope I've pronounced your name correctly because I know that you are Razia Anthman and you also have a podcast. Tell us more about your podcast.
So my podcast is called Beijing Chronicles. It's my latest creation of a podcast. And we created that podcast after my visit to China last year, September and October. And we went around China and we saw China in ways that I'd never seen before because I'd never been to China. And there's a lot that people say about China that you can only experience for yourself firsthand to understand. And so there's a lot of content, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of stories to tell the world, a lot of experiences to share with Ugandans. And we thought this podcast, this platform would be a good place for us to bring out those stories. And that's how we came up with the podcast, Beijing Chronicles.
That sounds amazing. I love a good China story when I hear it, and I think you must have many of those. I'm curious because, as far as I know, the reason that you're here or the reason that you were here was that you applied for the Dongfang Scholarship and you got it, and that is what brought you here in China, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. I did attend the Dongfang Scholarship Program, autumn of 2024. And it was an amazing opportunity, first of all, very huge. And the experience was enriching, eye-opening. I saw China in ways that I'd never, known before.
That was your first time being here in China, right?
Yes.
And the Dongfang program was a program of Peking University.
The program was at Peking University, and we had some of the world-class professors from Peking universities, those that, of course, have been around the world sharing with us their own experiences. It was a high-level political program where we were taught about Chinese politics, Chinese governance, and diplomacy. But beyond what we were sharing in the lecture halls, we also went around China, visiting different government cooperations, cultural institutions, and historical sites. So it was a combination of, the theoretical aspect of what China is all about, and also our own experience, seeing and, getting to live within the experience and the story of what happens in China.
I have to ask you this. I ask this to many of my employees a lot because I find it a golden question. What was your impression before coming to China? And what was your impression when you land? I ask a lot of these questions because it's natural. For instance, for me, I know about Uganda. I know that Uganda coffee is very popular here in China. I know Uganda is a relatively high altitude country, 1,000 to 2,000 meters above sea level, yet you have a lot of water areas. 有很多水系, a lot of water areas. So I do know Uganda a little bit, but I have never been there and I would love to visit. I was wondering if it's the same situation for you, that you, before coming to China, you must have known a little bit about China. You must have had an impression. And after landing, after being here in Beijing, you must have seen things. And what was your first impression when you were here?
So China for me was a country that I knew obviously is highly advanced and is moving at a really fast pace in terms of, growth economically and technologically. And I also knew that China is a country that banks so much on its history and its background. And it has, of course, unique characteristics, unique experiences in terms of its history. And so you wouldn't compare China directly to other countries that are advancing, or other huge economies in the world that are advancing at that same pace. So when I came, well, I knew that this is an advanced country. We landed at Daxing Airport in Beijing, and my first experience was, wow, things are moving so swiftly. The technology is really advanced, and every aspect or process for that matter has been simplified with technology. And there's a lot of things that I thought here in other countries would have to, do it manually. But in China, in Beijing, when I arrived, I felt like a lot of things had already been, you know, the Internet of Things is really huge in China. That's what I felt. And there are very many small things that technology can handle that a human being did not have to. So I felt the technology when I first landed in China at the airport. And we could do everything. I needed to exchange money, for example, and I didn't have to interact with an individual to buy dollars. At the Forex Bureau, there's already a machine there that would do everything for me. Yet in several other airports around the world, you have to interact with a human being to be able to do that. And I also felt like the Chinese people are really, really friendly and very polite. It's not the behavior that I expected of a Chinese or the Chinese people. Yeah, so I found them to be really polite at the airport. We go to, airports around the world, and people are even rowdy, so to speak. People are, the word is not rude, the word is rowdy, actually. The politeness of the Chinese people is really humbling, and I felt that they are really friendly people as well. And when we got outside the airport, heading to Peking University, where we stayed for 2 months, I felt like, okay, I thought China, being very advanced, had issues, as we had always read about, in terms of, balancing advancement and environment conservation. But I realized that a significant area of Beijing is actually green now. And much as there's industrialization on the side, which of course Beijing and China cannot do away with right now, they're also striving to make sure that whatever advancement there is eco-friendly. I really felt that. I saw the greenery, I saw the trees, I saw how, the electric cars, EVs, which are trying to, balance between the fumes and what goes into the air and what can be controlled in terms of advancement, and the technologies that the Chinese people are using to build, for example, cars and to reduce emissions into the atmosphere. So those are the things that really struck me at the landing point. And of course, beyond that, the movement in China is really easy. I did also experience riding bicycles, something that we don't do here. And also everything is on your phone. I felt like every single Chinese needed a smartphone. And I think every Chinese has a smartphone. I believe so, because how do you get around when you cannot pay for your bus, for example, for your commuter bus? How do you get around when you cannot pay for your train service? Yeah, how do you get around? How do you get around when you can't pay for a bike if you've got to cycle around? So I felt like every Chinese must have a smartphone. And then also the level of security, I think, from the part of the world where I come from, of course, security is really a huge thing. It's quite safe in Beijing, where I stayed, and I never felt any kind of fear. I never felt like someone would grab my phone through the window of the bus. I never felt that. So that also struck me as I arrived in China.
I must say, there are so many layers and so many details in that answer. I get you, though. Me, myself, I've been living in Beijing for around 10 years, and I've noticed that the city is getting greener and greener. There are so many parks here in Beijing, especially the kind we call it 口袋公园, pocket parks. So, pocket in Chinese is 口袋. It's the pocket you have on your clothes, it's the pocket you have on your bags. 口袋, 口袋. And 公园 is park. 公园park. There are so many pocket parks here in Beijing, meaning that the local government is using the little space in between residential areas or commercial areas or just the corner of a street to add more green to the city. They add different plantations and flower designed for you to ease your eyes a little, to rest a little bit, and also making the city greener. And I feel like the air quality of Beijing is getting better and better, and the green sightseeing is making me happier and happier. So I get when you say that Beijing is a really green place. And you mentioned about the cashless society kind of idea that you do not need cash if you don't want to. Well, yes, that is definitely a concept. And we say 现金 is cash in Chinese, by the way. And here we definitely want to strike a balance between making things more easier and easier and also taking care of those relatively vulnerable groups, the elder generation. So yes, most definitely everybody has a cell phone, but if you're the senior who find it a little bit difficult to use cell phone to pay for everything, to use the app to order everything, you don't necessarily have to. You can get help from your kids for sure. They allow people to attach other people's information onto their own account, their cell phone, so they can buy for others, they can pay for others. But at the same time, if you stick with cash, if you want to use cash, you definitely still can here in China. Another question I want to ask you is that what impressed you the most when you're here? What type of technological application? What type of invention? What is that one stuff that impressed you? I want to inspire you with one answer that I got from one of my foreign friends that surprised me. The answer was vending machine. 自动贩售机. 自动 is automatic. 贩售 means to sell. And 机 is a machine, so a vending machine, a 自动售货机 or 自动贩售机. And he said that it impressed him so much because, to start with, you can get almost anything in a vending machine. You can get hot meal, you can get snacks, you can get water, you can get fresh flowers from a vending machine. You can also get nowadays newspapers and magazines from a vending machine. And if you want to, you can go use your phone, scan the code, and pay for the vending machine, but you can also scan your face and allow the machine to use facial recognition to get the money deducted from your e-wallet. And he was very impressed by that. So how about you? What is the one creation or technological application that impressed you the most while or during your stay?
It's not a cliche, right, to say Alibaba, because we know Alibaba as an commerce giant around the world. But I'd never experienced Alibaba in the way that the Chinese people experience it in China, making the most out of an application. So if you have Alibaba, the way that you can integrate with the other applications, for example, the banking system, your identification, your security, making payments, getting around, even when it comes to for example, even social platforms and how you can incorporate the Alibaba system into these other applications, I think for me, amazed me. Yes, we know Alibaba. We know how advanced they are in terms of logistics. We know that it's a huge e-commerce marketplace, but also for the ordinary person, how they can take advantage of Alibaba and all its functions, I think for me, amazed me. To just have this one application that can sort all your errands on any given day in Beijing, anywhere in China, for me was amazing. And I think what really impressed me in terms of technological applications is Alibaba. And I like the way it's integrated into other systems, other functions on other applications that you need to get around on any given day in Beijing. That really impressed me.
Just out of curiosity, do you have Alipay, or can you use Alipay or other kind of third-party payment system or any kind of online shopping system in Uganda? Can you buy stuff there and get it delivered?
Yes, you can use them, but I can't say they're really so much integrated into the systems. For example, if I'm using, say, Alipay, I can use Alipay to get a cab, not so, in Beijing. I can use Alipay for the bicycles. It's already integrated, the bikes. I can use Alipay for the trains. I can use Alipay for, if I'm going, across the regions, I can use it for my speed train. I can use it for even to book flights. So it's not that much integrated here. In fact, I can't say people use Alipay in Uganda. No, I can't say that. In terms of the banking systems, WeChat, it's not that integrated here.
You are definitely right. I didn't realize that. But now, when you say that, I realize that that is one thing that a lot of tech companies are doing. So when the tech or when the application is popular enough among people, they started to install a lot of mini apps onto that one main app. For example, no matter if it's initially a social media app or a third-party payment app or maybe just short video or live streaming apps, once they got really popular, they would add a lot of mini apps, 小程序, 小 mini or 迷你小程序 mini apps, 程序 onto the main app. So when you want to do something, when you want to ride a bicycle, like you said, or order food, or purchase online, or even play little games on your phone, you do not have to download a little game app on your phone. You can go to the mini apps on those main apps. It's really integrated. You're right. I didn't even realize that before your comment. Thank you for inspiring me. And yes, that's what they're doing. I think the idea is that I want you to stay on my app as long as possible, as much as possible. So they're making it really integrated and making it also quite convenient for us as consumers.
Yeah, it is. In fact, other than Alipay, I think WeChat maybe is the epitome of integration when it comes to applications. So everything is on WeChat. You can pay with WeChat. You can go to your bank on WeChat. You can do your office work on WeChat. You can get social with your friends on WeChat. I think it really is the epitome of the integration that I'm talking about in terms of applications. And that is really impressive for me. And it made my life very easy, I must say.
We've spent some time talking about the virtual life here in China. Let's talk a little bit about the reality, the real life in China, in terms of shopping, in terms of goods, in terms of delicious food. Ooh, what is your favorite Chinese dish?
I think I like what are they called? I like dumplings.
But I found
it expensive. I don't know if there's such a special delicacy there. Dumplings, I love them. I think that's my favorite. I never got to eat them a lot though. I found them quite expensive, and in many of the restaurants where we ate, they didn't have dumplings in the campus. Yeah, but that is my favorite. I really love them. But of course, the noodles are really a go-to, and the variety really gives you options. You could eat this kind today, the other kind the other day. Yeah. But we also enjoyed, food that we thought we wouldn't find in China. Many people used to ask me, "Oh, what are you eating? What are you eating in Beijing? Are you eating snacks? Are you eating?" People think everything in China is not edible for us here from Uganda or from Africa. And I was telling them, no, there's a lot of stuff that you can eat. There's a lot of stuff that is familiar. It's just the recipe might be a little different, but there's a lot of things that you can eat. I also like the fact that the food in China, I think, is relatively, I can say, healthy. That's what I can say.
Mm.
Yeah, I found their food really healthy. Much as they have carbs, they have some oil sometimes. I think relatively the food there can be a good balance in terms of nutrition. And when you're looking to eat healthy, they also have vegetables. I like them. I like them so much. I like vegetables, and I found a lot of vegetables on the menus every time in China, anywhere. And I think I like that about the food in China. But dumplings are my favorite.
Dumplings are my favorite too. I love dumplings. I'm from the northern side of China. For those of you who don't know, actually, people from the northern part of the country see dumpling as a must-have for a lot of festivals. We love dumplings. We have dumplings on, for instance, Spring Festival, 春节, one of the most, actually the most important festival here in China. And for many other good and important occasions and other festivals, dumplings, 饺子 is our go-to food. So I get you, dumplings are delicious. And yes, as for the nutrition part, Chinese cuisine is relatively healthy. Actually really healthy. From the very beginning, the whole meal set would have a lot of different ingredients. We have vegetables, we have meat, we have fish, we have seafood, and we have definitely carbs. So we put them together in a relatively balanced way. So instead of a meal set, we would always have different dishes on the table so you can choose from. So it's already very healthy. Yet nowadays, for especially the younger generation here in China, we are very the younger generation is big on making things even healthier. We say 养生, cultivate the health. 养生, we would try to reduce the salt in the meal, try to reduce the carb we take in, and also reduce the sugar we take in, to be healthier. So yes, being healthy is very important in Chinese. But another thing I have to say is that you've only been here for 2 months. It's way too short, way too short. China is vast. China is so big, and we cannot really say Chinese food as a type of food, because Chinese food is almost an umbrella term for a lot of different cuisines here in the country, depending on where they're from. To begin with, the most important and the major ones are the 八大菜系, 8 major different cuisines, famous cuisines. They are 川鲁粤淮扬闽浙湘本帮. These are the 8 different cuisines that you can enjoy here in the country. Some of them are relatively salty, some of them are really spicy, some are sour and sweet. And even for the spicy ones, they can be numbing spicy, they can be sour spicy, they can be fresh and spicy. So many different types of spiciness as well. So come back to China. China has a lot to offer, especially food-wise. I would personally take you to different places to enjoy different food. You do really have to come back.
I think I've had so many times the chicken mixed with pepper. It's really hot, very spicy.
Yes. That is 宫保鸡丁 compound chicken. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. It just has the chili pieces. It's really hot. If you don't do chili, you can't eat that. Chili. What's chili in
辣椒
in Chinese?
辣 chili 辣椒 Yes.
Ma chong, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it has a lot of ma chong.
You're speaking Chinese. I'm curious. Have you learned Chinese while you were here?
We did attend some Chinese classes, but to be honest, the the schedules, I think, the timetable of the classes were really stretched. So you'll have a class today and then another class after 10 days. So sometimes you need to constantly, be learning, keep in touch. So because in these 10 days when we're not in the Chinese class, or in other classes or traveling. So it became a little bit difficult to learn so much in that kind of schedule. But yeah, we did attend some classes and I think I got a few things.
So
I got a few things, yeah.
in that case, I would call you a beginner in Chinese learning, no offense. I was curious, in the limited time that you've been learning Chinese, what is the one thing that you find really challenging? Something that makes you find it too hard to learn about the Chinese language?
Most challenging, I think, is in the tonation to understand the characters, and then put them in the right tonation. And like, can I first say my name in Chinese? Can you tell me whether Mong Xian Xian, Mong Xian Xian, like MENG, then ZHEN, Mong Xian Xian. I think that's the
Meng
right
Zhen
pronunciation of my.
If it's ZHEN, it's Zhen. So it's MENG, ZHEN, right?
And ZHEN.
Zhen Zhen.
It's
Zhen Zhen is beautiful.
Yeah, it means that's the meaning of the name. Yeah.
It's a beautiful
So
name.
I think thank you. I was given the name based on the meaning of my name, so they tried to bring it closer to the meaning of my name. But the most difficult thing with Chinese language, I think it's in the tonation and understanding the characters. And it's beautiful in a sense and also very interesting to bring the character to the meaning at that point. And the words might seem the same, but they're different. And there's this, what should I say? Is it a phrase that I'm told is used even in kindergarten when you're teaching kids Chinese? Ma, 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 ma. There are five. I think there's the horse, there's mom, there are five, but they all, if you didn't know Chinese, read them the same way. But it's in the characters, the E's. Ma, 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 mo, I don't know.
I get that a lot. The four tones, 四声 or 声调. It is really hard for many people who do not have the tone system in their language. So for the example you shared, ma, 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 those are the four tones. Ma, 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 ma. And like you said, there's a fifth one that is the light tone, 轻声, ma, ma. So to start with the ma, this is a signal of a question. This showcases that the sentence that you have just said is a question. 你吃饭了吗? Have you had meal just yet? So 你吃饭了, you ate, ma, whether or not. So it's a signal kind of character. And ma, first tone, means mother, mommy, like you said. And ma is a kind of fabric. Ma is horse. Again, you remembered it correctly. And ma means name calling or saying something's bad and saying bad things about certain people or certain things. So ma, 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 ma. And we even have a tongue twister. I remember it as 妈妈骑马，马慢，妈妈骂慢马。So mama is your mummy or everybody's mother. Mama is mother. 骑马 means to ride a horse. 妈妈骑马，马慢 the horse is slow. 妈妈骂慢马 mommy name calling the horse for being a bad horse. 妈妈骑马，马慢，妈妈骂慢马。That showcases how important the tone system is in Chinese language and also maybe how hard it is for the beginners.
Yeah, they tried to teach us that, and yeah, it's still, I need to practice it more. That's it. I need to practice more of this.
Yes, you
Yeah,
do. You should be a regular guest on Takeaway Chinese and we can learn Chinese or I can
I'd love to.
share some Chinese with you.
And maybe after a while, we could assess how much I've learned from talking Chinese, how much Chinese I've learned. I think it's in the practice, but also the other thing I realized about the Chinese language when we're now moving around and trying to use the little Chinese that we had learned was that maybe for the Chinese people who've never been outside China, they probably don't know about any other languages in terms of accent and pronunciation, and say so they wouldn't understand a wrong pronunciation. If I said Chinese word the wrong way, because of your exposure and your understanding of English, it's easy for you to identify and say, I think she's trying to say this. But many times we went to maybe shopping and you tried to explain something. You have the word, but your tonation is not correct. Your pronunciation is not correct. And they wouldn't get it. It would be very difficult. Someone went and they were trying to buy color. It's one of my easy words. Color.
Yes.
Color. Cock. So, but they failed. They said cola, color, cola, cola. They failed to get it. I think she had to say, like chiga, chiga, chiga. This,
chiga, nigga, this and that. Yes.
Yeah, nigga. Is it chiga or nigga? Nigga or chiga? Chiga. Something like that, trying to explain what exactly they wanted. But with just the color, that word failed completely. I think it's color, yeah.
You're doing it well. I know it's 可乐 from the very beginning. You're doing a good job. Yes, I get it. I think it's getting, well, in fact, better and better these years because, let's say 20 years ago or 30 years ago, China does not have that many foreign guests, which is why it's even harder for ordinary Chinese people to notice and to recognize the accent from our foreign friends. So it's even harder. But nowadays, with the help of, for instance, seeing more foreign friends coming to China and also the help of translation technology, like the translation apps on Chinese phones, it's getting easier. So I want to ask you this. You said you do not know that much Chinese when you travel in China, when you walk around. So do you find it problematic? Do you find it challenging to stay in China without learning or without mastering the language?
So I think when it comes to a language, the technology in China has really made things easy because in my experience, even if I was going to buy something at a grocery store or supermarket, market, I'll just take out my WeChat app and I'll scan whatever Chinese is written there, and it would reflect in the translated language of my choice, English in this case. And that became so easy for me. I didn't have to ask around about products on any, whether it was cosmetics, whether it was gadgets. I would just scan and I see what they're writing right away. But also the translation apps, I think are so many in China. We never had trouble with translation, I must say. If you have a smartphone and you're connected to the internet, I think you shouldn't have trouble with Chinese because you can even use the audio kind of translation. So if you're talking to a local person, for example, who has trouble reading, you will just type whatever you want very quickly, or even just speak into your device, your phone, and then you can have the other person listen to it in Chinese. So for me, because of technology, that is not really a big deal, because you have now technology that can help people get around, can help people communicate in terms of translating any language, not just for English, Chinese English, French, Portuguese.
I'm very happy about that.
Technology made it easy, Technology made things easy. Of course, in some places you'd have to use just one word, shiga. You'd point at something and someone knows what is it that you want. yeah, you just point at something and someone knows what it is that you want. For example, if you're going to the convenience stores, that was easy. And yeah, for the other interactions, it was mostly to use an app. Yeah.
I'm very happy. I'm happy about this. Yes, because I always say to my foreign friends, come to China, come to visit us. But they are saying, well, I do not know the language. Is the bilingual system in the country good enough? Will I survive without knowing any Chinese? And I am reassured today thanks to your answer. In that case, would you recommend your friends to come to China? And if so, is there anything that you think is a must try if they're here? It can be food, it can be things to buy, it can also be experience to have or places to visit. Do you have a recommendation list for your friends, especially those in Uganda?
Yeah, I do. I do have a recommendation. Actually, it's a whole list. So depending on who I'm talking to. I was telling someone just the other day, last week, if you're into technology, she's a software developer. And I was telling her, if you're into technology, China is the place to be, because they're trying to, the opportunities are just, abundant for people in technology. And I was telling them, if you go there, who knows, you might be part of the efforts to replace, I think, foreign computer operating systems with the Harmony operating system. So I was like, you can imagine that's a very huge undertaking for a country. So you can be part of that. But also outside that, there's a lot of, growth in terms of technology. There are many things you can try. There are many things the Chinese are making. You can go into there's a list of things, the EVs, the automation in terms of robots. There's a lot that I think someone who is into computers, who is into artificial intelligence can benefit from when they come to China. So this is just one person who is so much into technology. But in terms of someone who is looking to, visit, many people don't visit China for social reasons. So it's what I think. If I wanted to go to a place, I would pick the word is not popular, but the places that many people go to all the time. And I was telling someone, you can actually go to China. China has so many, dozens of UNESCO heritage sites, things that you only see on TV. You can actually see them in China, because most people from Uganda think China is all about business. It's all about buying products and bringing them back to Uganda and selling them. Most people, I think, come to China for business, to buy products, to come and sell them back at home, which is okay for those who are into business. But I think there's many, many, many experiences in China that individuals, depending on their interests, can come and see. So there's the visits. You can go to of course, the most famous, as we all know, is the Great Wall of China. But beyond that, and maybe the pandas. I love pandas. But beyond that, beyond that, I tell people there's so much you can see in China. So many people know that, okay, China is such a huge country with 1.4 billion people, but they don't understand, or maybe haven't imagined the vastness of China, as a country. And I was telling them, for me to go to Guangzhou, I need a flight or a speed train. It's not the place, they thought because you're in Beijing, you can just... And I said, no, it doesn't work like that. It's very distant. And China is like 39 times the size of Uganda. So you can imagine how much you can see there in terms of technology, for those who are interested in technology, in terms of infrastructure. If you're someone who is into development in that sense, in terms of even the politics of the country is also very interesting if you're into maybe politics and governance and what you can maybe learn and apply to your own, maybe personal work, maybe as a politician, or even to your country if you have access to making or influence when it comes to making policies, for example, for the politicians, the members of parliament. So I think there's a lot in China that many people who haven't been to China are not imagining. Yeah. So beyond the products, which is what we know China for mostly, there's a lot to actually experience in China. Yeah. So, but the quick things that I would recommend is for those who are into technology to come and learn and experience and see how the Chinese people are actually taught, and the free thinking, the kind of competition that the government allows, which is to bring in foreign maybe companies that are really good in terms of say a field, maybe EVs, the company that is making EVs. So if you have them as competition locally in China, how are you going to push, for example, BYD to improve on their models, on their EVs? So yeah, I tell people to visit China. Of course, the food is, there are people who are really exploratory. They would love to test so many things in terms of the cuisine. But yeah, for me, I think it's the historical sites and technology. Those two things for me are really the things that I would recommend anytime for someone to visit and see and experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Those were precious. I love all those answers. And from a outsider's point of view, you've been here for around 2 months, and those are experience, and I think they are really valuable, especially to those who have never been to China before. So hopefully after listening to our special episode on Takeaway Chinese today, those of you who are listening, who have always wanted to visit China, would have been nudged a little bit in making your trip plan into something real, into really coming here and experience for yourself. But the next best thing would be staying with Takeaway Chinese and learn about these cool stories that we are sharing on our program. Thank you so much for listening. Today it's me, Niu, with our great guest, Razia Athman. Thank you so much for joining the show. Thank you again. Hope you had a good time as well.
Thank you so much, Niu. I have enjoyed my time chatting with you about the Chinese.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And for our dear listeners, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
New Vision TV. Stream smart, stream New Vision.